the father of one of the greatest singers and film stars of our time, and the owner of a great New York City Italian restaurant? Buckle on up as you are about to be mesmerized in this exclusive interview with this fascinating restaurateur.
Welcome to the Motivation Show podcast, and get ready to be inspired, motivated, and achieve massive success. And now, your host, the mayor of motivation, Eli Marcus.
Our guest on the Motivation Show today has a fascinating family, including a world-famous daughter, who is a prolific singer and songwriter and movie star named Stephanie Germanotta, more familiar to you, no doubt, as Lady Gaga. He is also a friend of mine. I've known him for about a dozen years or so, and the owner of Joanne Trattoria. That's my favorite subject, food, a fabulous Italian restaurant on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City. Welcome to the Motivation Show, Joe Germanotta.
Hi, Eli. How are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. I want to get into a bunch of fun stuff here. We're going to talk about your restaurant, talk about your fascinating family. And, everybody probably wants to start off with you, Joe, talking about, obviously, Lady Gaga, including me. But before we do, let's get into the other two fascinating ladies in your family, if you don't mind. Your wife, Cynthia, who I know and is one of the most lovely individuals on the planet. You can't get better than her. And your other lovely daughter, Natalie. Do you mind talking about them a little bit?
No, that's fabulous. I mean, I'll share with you. Cynthia started the Born This Way Foundation about 11 years ago. And I think they just had their 10th year anniversary. And they're doing extremely well. I think they've got about a staff of about 20 people now. And they've raised quite a bit of money, and it goes to help troubled youths around the country. And they have seminars, they have sessions, they have one-on-ones, they have meet conferences, etc. So it's a real valuable resource, and a lot of the little monsters come into the restaurant all the time and want to meet her and thank her for, helping them with their particular situation. Now, Natalie, my youngest, Mouse Germanotta, that's what we call her, the mouse.
Why do you call her the mouse?
Because she was always in the corner and very quiet. And now that's changed.
That's how I started, believe it or not, in the corner and quiet.
So she has just started up her own design firm. She's got her own studio, and she's got several very large clients. Her largest client is obviously her sister. She has done many of the costumes for the most recent Chromatica concert, and she's done some of the stage costumes for the Tony Bennett show. And now she's doing private dressmaking. I know she's upstairs right now working on a wedding dress. So, it's a very, very interesting business. And I just love watching them both work. It really makes me happy to see that they're so dedicated and, and they've made it on their own, which is good. We gave them a head start, right? But they have made it.
That's fantastic. Well, speaking of costumes, I mean, obviously, people probably have noticed some of the incredible costumes that Stephanie, of course, Lady Gaga, has worn over the years, including that classic meat dress. How did that all come about? Whose ideas are these things?
Well, I think that particular one was hers. I mean, I can tell you a funny story about that. I had no idea that it was a meat dress when I was with her at that event. And when she walked in, I looked at it and I said, my God, that's just the most fabulous fabric that I've ever seen. Then I realized it was meat, right? But she, she curates her own costumes and the theme of everything. Everything she does comes out of the mind of Stephanie.
So, they say, Joe, you've probably heard this expression, success leaves clues. What makes Lady Gaga the success that she is? What can the rest of the world be learning from her?
Well, I mean, the most important thing, I think, is, the determination that she wanted to be. She wanted to be an actress, singer, songwriter. I mean, she was performing since she was, 10 years old. And, we never held her back. And it's the determination and the persistence. I mean, she wasn't giving up. And I can never forget when we met her. I think it was her 20th or 21st birthday, and she was at NYU. And we took her out to dinner, and that's when she told me she wanted to quit school and pursue her music career. And I said to her, well, you can do that. I've put money away for you for college, right? And you can use some of that money to start your career, and we'll help you with that. But if you don't get a record deal in a year, you're going back to school. Right? And she just hustled and did everything she needed to do, and she got a deal, right? And we couldn't stop her then.
That's a tight time frame. That's pretty impressive.
Well, she knows that I mean what I say.
Well, one thing I've learned about you, you're a fair guy. You're a no nonsense guy. And that's what I've always liked about you. I know exactly what you're thinking. You don't pull any punches. And I think that's somebody anybody would want to know. That's why I've enjoyed knowing you for all these years. So when did you kind of really first realize that she had the potential to be someone, to be reckoned with on the world stage? That's a little different than someone just successful, but she's mega successful.
Well, I got to tell you, truly the first time that I knew that she was going to be somebody in the music business was when I heard the first cut of Just Dance, the first record. And it just, I've been tracking music my entire life. And when I heard that, I knew that was a hit. And, she sold millions of copies of that thing, of that record. So
maybe you should be a music publisher yourself. You got that kind of an eye and ear.
It's not that good, but that particular one, I was on target.
She is a lady of many talents. How would you like the world to most see her?
Well, I think as a leader, all right, I think she's got a very strong voice around the world, and she uses it very sensibly. And a voice like hers could get out of control, all right. And she's got a very tempered approach, to what she says on stage, what she tweets, what she, whatever the social media outlet is. And I think that's quite impressive. Okay. Where, a lot of artists can step out of line very, very easily, and they do it, they step on their tie. How's that? Every once in a while.
So, Tony Bennett is a 1960s icon. He was famous back then. How did the old school get in with the new school? How are they combined and doing such great projects together?
Well, they met at an event. I think it might have been the Robin Hood event. And, Tony came up to her and he just said, "Hey, you want to do a record? Hey, kid, you want to do a record together?" And that's where it started. Right. And, when he called her, she said to me, "Dad, what do you think?" And I said, "Look, if Tony Bennett wants to talk to you, you talk to him. He's Tony Bennett."
So, Joe, you own a great restaurant. And by the way, I had your vegetarian lasagna the other day, and it was out of this world. So you've got a very diverse menu. What got you into the restaurant business, Joe? It's not the easiest business in the world.
Well, no, actually, it was a life's passion. All right, to be in the restaurant business. I mean, it started when I was a kid, when I was, a teenager. I always wanted to own a restaurant. And I pursued that by, going to the business school at Michigan State, which has, quite an extensive hospitality program for business. And But then when I graduated from college, from MSU, from Michigan State, I went into, rather than go on the operations side of the business, I went in public accounting. And I worked for many years as an industry consultant, right, doing feasibility studies for hotels and restaurants. But it all came, full circle. And then I just left that industry and went into telecommunications and software, and I owned my own businesses, and I had quite a diverse career. And then when my last business was a Wi-Fi company, which we provided wireless internet in hotels. And I sold that business, and I was pretty much retired. And Cynthia was pretty much retired. And Stephanie flew into town one day, and she basically told her mother that I want to start a foundation, the Born This Way Foundation. And I want you to be the chairman. Right. And she knew that I was a minor investor in a restaurant around the corner to Joanne, just 2 blocks from our home. And the previous owner went out of business. All right. And the landlord asked me if I wanted it. And I said, yes. And Stephanie took a look and she said, you always wanted it. Let's do it. I said, okay. And that's how I got into the restaurant business. So for the first 7 months in the restaurant business, I was locked up in what's now Joanne Trattoria, and it was a gutted space. And we rebuilt it from the studs. We took the ceilings down, the walls down, right? We built a new kitchen downstairs and upstairs. So, I learned the restaurant business from the ground up, truly.
Oh, that's inspiring. How did the name of your restaurant, Joanne Trattoria, come to be?
My 2 girls, Natalie and Stephanie, wanted to pay tribute to her aunt, Joanne, who they never met. Joanne died when she was 20, and she died from lupus. And that's why I think that I'm active with the lupus, the Alliance for Lupus Research. So it was really a tribute. It's truly a tribute to her, the aunt that they never met. And they knew that I always had, a longing that I missed her, right? So,
what a sweet, inspiring story! Yeah, that's a great motivation to continue to put out an A+ quality restaurant as you do. So, what is your favorite dish, Joe, and what else can we expect on the menu?
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite right now is. Chef Jorge is, he's got quite an interesting background. He's from Guatemala, and he worked in a German restaurant, and now he's in an Italian restaurant. But my favorite dish there right now is his osso buco that he makes over garlic mashed potatoes. And he makes it in 2 styles. He makes a style of veal and 1 style in lamb, and those are my favorite. Now I can't eat it all the time, but when I do want to sit down and have a hearty meal, that's the one that I choose. I met Chef Jorge with the other restaurant that I had briefly down in Grand Central Terminal, the Art Bird and Whiskey Bar, and he was my chef down there. And I brought him up to Joanne. I just liked him, and we clicked. Our style of business and interaction and personalities clicked very, very well. And now we've been together for about 6 years.
So why do you think the people from all over the world love your restaurant? What's the magic ingredient here?
I think there's a couple of people. I think there's a lot of publicity around it. Now there's an album that was named after my sister Joanne. All right. And there's a lot of memorabilia in the restaurant. It's got, I always say it's got a Greenwich Village feel on the Upper West Side. I mean, it's an old brownstone, and it's got a long corridor and, hidden spaces and a lot of exposed brick walls, etc. And, but the real value of the place is that it's got an outdoor patio in the back. That's, I think, the biggest, seller in the neighborhood. Okay. But we attract guests from dependent upon the time of the year, from the United Kingdom, from Brazil, Japan, Australia, France. I mean, it's quite amazing too, because some of them are repeat customers. Whenever they come to New York City, they make a stop there, right? And and now we've become a party place. Okay, we host several parties a year for Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving, but they're open parties with a DJ, and so rather than go the route of, hey, it's Valentine's Day, here's a surf and turf dinner, what we do is we bring in a DJ and we throw a party, and all the guests are typically in some way associated with her fan base, right? And it's become quite a tradition now.
How often are you personally in the restaurant, and how do you handle people that want to come up and take pictures with you?
Well, I consider myself semi-retired. I mean, I don't go there every day. I stop in. I live 2 blocks away. If they call me and they need me, I come over. I will stop in during the day. On the weekends, I'll pop over for about an hour on a Friday or a Saturday night just to see what's going on. Especially since now we have live entertainment. I like to meet the entertainers and promote, and do some promotion on Instagram. We do a live Instagram feed on Fridays and Saturdays. And but when people want to take pictures, I'm fine with it. It's just I can't say no. I mean, that would be horrible.
Well, you could, but you're a gentleman, and
yeah. I mean, I enjoy meeting every one of them. I mean, they all have a story to tell, and they're all so excited to be there, and so I want to make their visit as happy as possible.
Well, I think I know some of the least favorite parts of probably running a business, like things breaking down every week, and challenges sometimes, maybe getting a new employee or employee quitting. What is your favorite part of running a restaurant?
Having the kitchen 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
That's the favorite part.
Saves you from cleaning a lot of your own dishes.
Right. And having a walk-in refrigerator full of vegetables and eggs and everything else. So, I mean, I make fun of it, but rather than go to the grocery store, a lot of the times I'll hop over there and I'll say, hey, I need some celery, carrots, onions, etc. And they make a bag for me and I bring it home. But normally every night, Cynthia and I will, order something from Joanne's. And on the busier nights, we'll order something off the menu. On the slower nights during the week, I might ask them to make me something special. All right, which they'll do as long as it's. I don't like throwing them to the wolves in the middle of a busy service and saying, "Hey, would you make me a piece of chicken fried steak?"
Yeah,
they'll laugh at me, right?
So you and I have co-hosted an event in your backyard yard garden there, which was just so much fun with that skylit little atrium that you have there. And we also have a private little nook there that seats about 12 people, which we've also co-hosted an event in. Tell us a little bit about that little private nook. Well,
that's actually, it's a old 100-year-old brownstone. And that was a coal bin. It started out, the concept was to have, let's call it the chef's table. And I don't know whether you know this, but because the wall is closed over now, but when we originally opened, there was a window on the back wall of the private room, the chef's room. And the concept was that, like if Chef Art Smith, who was helped me put together the restaurant.
Wasn't he Oprah's chef?
Yes, he was Oprah's chef.
Yes.
Yeah. He owns a couple of restaurants around the country. And the concept was that if Art was in the kitchen or a chef was in the kitchen and somebody took the private room, he would prepare dishes and then pass them through the window. So it would be like a very unique family experience. Like, hey, now, here's another dish that the chef prepared. So the concept was that you didn't know what you were going to get. Okay. You knew it was going to be some flavor of maybe Italian or red, but you were going to get a sampling of everything. And the chef was dedicated to you for the night. Right. But, it didn't get enough activity. And quite frankly, it was very noisy because it was right off the kitchen. And if you can imagine, what goes on in the kitchens with the yelling back and forth, you could hear every peep in the chef's room. But now that situation's gone away. But now we use it. It fits, 12 to 14 people. It gets quite a bit of use for like Sweet 16 parties. We've hosted board meetings there. We do, normal family events. But, I'm quite lucky to have, two valuable spaces like that in one restaurant. Okay. It's got doesn't seat a lot. The restaurant only seats 85 people. But I get 12 to 14 of them in that little private room. And I got another 25 to 30 out on the back patio. So I can actually have, two parties going on at the same time and then have a dining room full of reservations.
Yeah, I enjoyed both rooms. Your staff is definitely top notch. Everything you do has been fantastic. So what I want to kind of delve into a little bit, Joe, is you've led a pretty fascinating life. Would you change anything about your life if you could?
Well, yeah, there were some bumps in the road. Okay, I can't say there weren't. Right, and I've corrected those over the years, and I've made mistakes and I've done some things that I regretted. On a personal and a business level, but I'm still proud of everything that we've done as a family. All right, despite the missteps that I had, we still were able to provide a great education for our children and help them create their own careers and build a large foundation, right, that helps kids all over the world. And I'm just feeding people at this point.
Well, Joe, I mean, do you think you can really have great success without bumps in the road? I mean, isn't that part of the learning process and goes with the territory?
I do. I think I used to tell the kids that if you're not making a mistake, you're not trying. Okay. So just pick yourself up. And, I used to tell them that, defeat is temporary, right? Quitting is permanent. Just never quit.
Powerful.
Okay. Right. Those are the, and then, so one of the other things I used to always say to them is you can achieve anything as long as you have patience, persistence, and timing.
Ooh,
okay.
Big three.
The big three. Okay. If you can manage the patience and the persistence and the timing, you can do just about anything.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges with the average person is they want things quick, right, Joe? If you want to we're in a now world.
The biggest question I get a couple of questions consistently. Okay. Other than, what's it like to have a famous daughter? Okay. Which, that always sets me on my heels all the time. Right. But, the other is, the younger artists that come in or the wannabes, okay, that, they have some talent, but they're trying to figure out their way through the business. And what I tell them is just keep playing, get out there and keep performing. And, sooner or later, you're either going to run into somebody or, somebody's going to hear you or they're going to give you a different opportunity. And, it may happen, it'll happen as when you least expect it. How's that? It'll be. So, and that's a lot of the reasons why, I opened up the patio on the weekends to let some of the new upcoming artists come in and perform. Right. And they bring their families. Right. And they're performing for their family and they're performing for the guests in the restaurant and they put out their tip jar just like, they would at the bitter end. Right. And it's been successful for a lot of them. I mean, one girl I know now she's performing, Natalie, her name is, she's performing in Nashville on a regular gig. Okay. And, so it's a matter of getting out there and just, keeping your head down and don't get discouraged. Right. But I also tell them, I say, look, if you're going to perform someplace, you can't just play your own music. right? You've got to play covers. All right. Because if you don't play the covers, you're not going to get their attention. If you can
got to get the attention first. Yeah.
Right. You get their attention and then you can tell them, hey, this is a song that I wrote. Right. And you play it. Okay.
Well, that's good wisdom.
So
I like that. So how do you see the next 10 years of life for Mr. Joe Germanotta?
I want to slow down quite a bit. I've got a good staff in place now. I had a great staff, and then I lost them all pre-pandemic, right? And then I had to rebuild them because a lot of them went home or they went back to, the country that they came from, or they started another career, right? So I lost just about everybody. But there's a couple that have been with me since the beginning, and they're the core of the group. And, they helped me do the hiring, and to rebuild the staff. Now the staff it's back up to par to where it was pre-pandemic, where, the kids get together and they work, but they also like each other, right? So they work as a team, right? And it always amazes me when there's when there's a party, how many of them go to the same party and they meet after work. Some of them have gone on vacations together. It's really, it's quite impressive. So, the Joanne staff has always become quite of a little, second family, where, I try to help them as much as I can. And to be quite candid, Eli, neither one of my girls want the restaurant. Okay. So why do I stay in it? I stay in it because the kids that work there and the people, the chef this is their livelihood. And I don't want to turn my back on them. All right. And so, we keep it going, but I'm not killing myself anymore. That's it.
And I think that's a fair balance. And I think it's an incredible thing that you are, thinking of the people who work with you, and also obviously trying to take care of yourself as well, because they both go hand in hand. I want to congratulate you for that. And I want to let my listeners know they can come to Joanne Trattoria at 70 West 68th Street. You're only a block away from Central Park. That's pretty cool, between Central Park West and of course, Columbus Avenue. And of course, you can go on JoanneNYC.com and read all about the incredible restaurant. And Joe, I want to thank you for coming on the Motivation Show today.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it, Eli. And, maybe we'll do it again.
Absolutely.
See you soon.
Thank you so much.
If you would like to inquire about having Eli motivate your team, speak at your event, or coach you personally for massive success, email themotivationshow@gmail.com. That's themotivationshow@gmail.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.